الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا قال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته أو كما قال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to this event and also our esteemed guest from Ontario, Brother Ijaz, inshallah. It's another privilege and source of khair that we get to speak on this topic of building the ideal Muslim home. This topic is more for myself than it is for all of you, but I do hope that we can all together get inspiration from the teachings of Sharia that inshallah we will discuss. You look at every nation and society, those who pride themselves on being excellent individuals, and you look at those individuals individually, you'll see that they are molded by families. The same families that raise them, nurture them, those families create that home environment of stability, of values and ethics, on the basis of which you get people who are produced from those households that carry themselves with dignity and an easy word that for all of us to understand, class. You have classy individuals. No, we have some friends here from the UK. In the United Kingdom, you get people who they're considered posh, they are very respectable people, and they do that from the beginning. They raise their children from an early stage that the kids know to say thank you, to say please. These are all things that they're taught from the beginning. There's no dismissive attitude that you find that, no, it's okay, abhi to bachcha, he's still small. You don't find that there. Right? The same thing, we look at it in our homes and we should implement it. That's not for leaning. It will make that sound if you lean. You look at the problems that exist in society on an individual level, not on a society level, on an individual level, crimes that exist, that take place. All of those problems, those vices and evils and the chaos, it can all be curbed if there was stability at home. You look at the statistics in the United States, you look at statistics over here, look at statistics for downtown Edmonton and the crime that's happening there. You trace it up somewhere. Alhamdulillah, we get to do volunteer efforts in the juvenile center up in the north where young kids are incarcerated. Look at that, look at statistics, you'll understand where there's instability, where there isn't a proper, comfortable, nurturing home, it will lead to confusion and to absence of direction. So today's whole topic is about how we can learn to build good homes through the legacy of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Considering we're coming close to Dhul Hijjah, the countdown is there of when Eid is coming up. Eid is going to be on the 28th of June, inshallah. So we're coming close. The Jumu'ah topic, we spoke about one family member of Ibrahim alayhi salam, his nephew Lut alayhi salam, and we spoke about that in detail. This evening discussion will speak specifically about Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidah Hajar and Ismail alayhi salam. Okay. Now, Ibrahim alayhi salam as a Nabi, as a prophet, he was in Ibrahim kana ummah. He was a person who was a nation, meaning that he had the fikr and the concern of all of his flock, all of his congregation. And it wasn't just Makkah, it was Palestine, and he was from Iraq, so there's a lot of people. But like how he was an ideal prophet, he was also an ideal father in his household. And we learn important principles from how he behaved with his household and how his household conducted themselves based on his upbringing of them or his teaching of them. So in Salah, we read the Durood, Kama Sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala Ali Ibrahim. So that's his family that's included in there. Barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala, Kama Barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala Ali Ibrahim. That's his family. And we're commanded to read this. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to read it in every Salah. It goes to show that there must be something exclusively important for us to take from Sayyidina Ibrahim and Al and his family. Okay. So the first point that we will discuss today that we can take lesson from, and I'm going to be repeating these points towards and through the entire session, inshallah, so that these 5 points you can take home. If somebody forgets for whatever reason, you can approach me after the discussion, after the topic, after we finish this, and I will repeat those points. And those points are such that I feel if we implement them, we can create confident, successful Muslim homes. The first point is the vision and mindset. One of the most important principles of an ideal home is that the head of the home, all of you, men, have to have the correct mindset. Okay? Your mindset, your vision, your goals, your aspirations are what will direct your behavior and your conduct when we are with our families. It can happen, and it does happen, that many a times a father's primary concern is, how can my child progress materially? How can my child, how can I do whatever I need to do to make sure that my child goes into college or university and succeeds and graduates and has a solid job? Once I've done that, alhamdulillah, I've done what I have to do. That's what happens. But when that happens and there is a neglect for deen, then you will have children who are far away from their religion. Even though they're qualified, alhamdulillah, they got amazing marks in high school and they went to university and they got great marks in university. Right? But if they're away from the deen, as a father, have you really fulfilled your responsibility of fatherhood, of ra'iyah, of fulfilling your, of having that, of parenthood? If not, then we need to reflect on that. So what happens is that sometimes, alhamdulillah, has been an imam for about 5 years, you see this sometimes where the parent will bring their child to you and say, Imam Sahib, samjhain. Explain to him that he's supposed to listen to me and he's supposed to be a good son. He's supposed to be farma bardar, obedient. Well, the bitter question is, did you raise your child and did you emphasize the importance of the religion in your child's life before you started playing the religious card and say, no, Allah commands you to listen to me? If a parent didn't do that, then it won't lead to happy results. Okay? So we look at Ibrahim alayhi salam and how he left his wife, Sayyidah Hajar, and his infant, Ismail alayhi salam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was 86 years old when he had his son Ismail. He was 86. That's why, the ayat mentioned that he was amazed that how will I have a child while I'm at this age? Well, he was 86 and he had this child, Ismail alayhi salam. So he left his infant Ismail alayhi salam and Hajar in a place, biwadin ghayri dhi zar'in, in Makkah Mukarramah at that time, where it was a valley. There was nothing there. There was no sign of life. There was no water. There was no crops, nothing. Nobody was passing through there. And he left them there and he made that dua. He said, إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم وارزقهم من الثمرات لعلهم يشكرون. That first he expressed his weakness to Allah, that Allah, I don't, this is what I have done in line with your command to me. I've left my children, my family here. And I've left them here لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ, so that they are punctual on their salah. This is something very important. As Muslims, you understand this. After Iman, after belief, the 5 pillars, after belief, the most important thing in the life of a Muslim is salah. Okay? If he neglects that salah, then that's on him. But if he does not show the importance of that salah to his children, then that's also on him. You find this sometimes, and it's interesting because alhamdulillah I've been teaching children since before I became an imam, so about 7 years now I've been teaching children. Something amusing and sadly hurtful that I get from some students is that you telling me that salah is important, it's fard, but then you telling me I have to pray 5 times a day, but then when I go home, I see something else. I don't see that importance in salah. So what's up with that? Now, how can you tell that child that, no, your dad is a bad Muslim? You're not going to say that. Say, no, it's okay, your father is trying, but you try on your own. But that child learns one thing in the masjid, in the madrasa, and then he goes home and he sees something completely different. Do you think that child will not be confused? Do you think there will be a positive outcome from that confusion? There won't be, right? So this is the first thing. In that dua that Ibrahim alayhi salam made, first thing he said of the importance of salah. The second thing, he didn't make dua for Makkah to become a place that, they have wealth and everything. He acknowledged that Makkah is going to be a place, biwadin ghayri dhi zar'in, it's going to be a dead place. It's not going to have, wealth and crops and livestock and whatnot coming in. But he said, Allah, you look after their needs. وَرْزُقْهُمْ. Allah, you provide for them. وَرْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. You provide for them whatever they need, food, drink, everything. Okay. This is highlighting a point, interesting point for us. Right? Alhamdulillah, either we are directly immigrants, or we are children of immigrants, or we are grandchildren of immigrants. When we came over here willingly to Canada, the niyyah that we can make, if you haven't made it, you can make it, is that we're coming here with the intention of deen, keeping deen priority, to do da'wah. If you have that intention, then we can also benefit from this mindset of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he starts the dua off by saying that I want my children to be, regular in salah, and he ends it off with I want them to be grateful for everything that you give them. In between, their material needs just seem to find their way. وَرْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Just look after them, but the beginning of the dua and the end of the dua is focusing completely on their spirituality. Because rozi to aane wali cheez hai. Rizq will come. That's it. But the thing is, do we understand that we're Muslims and we're different than others who may have a different priority? Yes, alhamdulillah, we understand that. So that was the first thing. The vision and mindset of the father, the breadwinner, the head of the household, has to be there. If it's something that is different, if it's lacking, then the whole family suffers. The second thing, being on the same page. Generally, the mother spends more time with the child. Okay. There's a book written by a professor in California who did a study over 4 generations of families. It's called Faith and Families, how faith is passed down, how religion is passed down to generations. It's a Christian, the author of that research is a Christian. He's a faith leader. But he shares his findings of how 400 members of different families he surveyed, and what were the core findings in how religion passed down onto those 4 generations, from the great-grandfathers to the children. He explains something very interesting, right? And this is keeping in line. So this is something which is not directly linked with our discussion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, but it is something that we can take benefit from. It's anecdotal information, it's statistics. So he says that if a woman has the right mindset, she will be able to raise her children to be confident in their religious beliefs. And he gives evidence from, he mentioned the name of a woman, I can't remember right now, but her husband was a United States Air Force, a person who was moving out around a lot. So he was out of the home, and she was home for the most part. But she made sure, in the absence of her husband who was out being deployed, she made sure that her children were still attending church, and her children were still attending Sunday school. And she made that environment at home where these children felt comfortable to be confident Christians. Okay. Now back to what we're speaking about Sayyidah Hajar alayhi salam, and how Ibrahim alayhi salam instilled within her the correct values, mindset, and vision, that when he left, she then imparted those core morals and ethics and ideals to her son Ismail. Where you have conflicting worldviews between a husband and wife, then that leads to issues. Where you've got a wife who is, mashallah, very observant and a practicing Muslimah, but then you've got the husband who isn't as observing, then that also leads to confusion. The same confusion that I mentioned, where the kid comes to the masjid and he learns that salah is important, he goes home, he sees something different. Now imagine if he's at home and he's asking his father, do I have to fast tomorrow? Father says, nah, don't worry about it, you're still small. Mother says, yes, you're going to fast, you can fast half day if you want, but you're definitely fasting, I need you to get you in the habit of it. That kid is confused. Is it important or is it not important? Where they're both on the same page, and where do you get them on the same page? That's what, young men, when they're about to get married, that's what they need to understand. Those conversations are supposed to happen then. There's a man that met me about 3 days ago, regular in this masjid, mashallah. He was telling me that, inshallah, he's looking to get married. His wife is, a bit older than him, but what are the difficult questions that he needs to ask her before he ties the knot? This is a difficult question. What is her worldview when it comes to children? What is her view when it comes to creating an ideal home at home? Ideal home in your house. If there is that, if it clicks, then alhamdulillah. If it doesn't click, then it's not just beauty and charm. We know that now. Many of us, alhamdulillah, have been married for a couple of years. We know that. That's what we are supposed to look for. That will the person that I'm entering into nikah with, do I see them as being an ideal mother for my children? If I do, then alhamdulillah. If I don't, then it doesn't mean don't go into enter into nikah. It means you have to put that work in for yourself and for her before you become parents, before you enter children into the world, and then they become your responsibility and an amana. So this is the second thing, that you have to be on the same page. Both parents have to be on the same page. Anybody know about Umar bin Abdul Aziz? Anybody heard that name? Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Heard that name? Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, he's considered one of the, he missed the Khulafa, but he just came a little bit later. But he was an amazing person as a Khalifa. So his father, Abdul Aziz bin Marwan. Marwan bin Hakam was the governor. He was also a Khalifa. And then his son Abdul Aziz. And Abdul Aziz's son was Umar. So Abdul Aziz, he sent his son Umar, who was respectfully a spoiled prince. He sent him from Syria to Medina Munawwara. Okay. He sent him to Medina Munawwara. Go there, stay by this man. It was Salih bin Kaysan, who was a scholar. He said, stay by this man, learn Islam, and learn tahzeeb, learn manners, learn etiquettes, learn how to be an insan. Now, who was this? A prince, a very rich person. But he's being told, you get out of the house, you go over there, go to Medina Munawwara, and learn how to be an insan and learn etiquette, learn Islam. So he went, and he stayed by Salih bin Kaysan, and Salih bin Kaysan emphasized salah. He said, you make sure you pray your salah in the jama'ah, in the masjid. So he said, okay. So he would go pray congregation. Once he was delayed. Why am I saying this? I'm tying it up with the point of being on the same page and the importance of the religion. So once he was late for salah, and he missed his salah completely. Like it was 6:45 and he came at like 7 o'clock. He came in. So Salih bin Kaysan, Ustadji, said, no, what happened? Why are you delayed? He said, no, I was at home or wherever I was staying, and my attendant, my female attendant, my bandi, was combing my hair, and I got delayed. So Salih bin Kaysan was upset that as your teacher, who's trying to give you the right upbringing and the etiquettes, how are you so worried about your hair, that the fact that you missed your salah with congregation? Not that he made it a qada. He just missed it with congregation. So he sent a letter to this kid's father in Syria, Abdul Aziz, that your son Umar missed his salah because he was worried about his hair. The father got the letter. He didn't send a letter back saying, don't tell me how to raise my kid. I'll do it myself. I just told you to teach him. So he sent a letter. And he sent a messenger with that letter, obviously. He said, you go to Medina and you shave this kid's hair. Okay? So this was importance for salah that parents had. Okay? Now, when both spouses complement each other in parenting and in religion and in dini matters, then you will have harmony in that household. If the walida is parda nashin, if the mother wears the niqab and is mashallah very good, but the father is not as committed to the religion, then there's confusion. Okay? Not to say that the father is not trying. If the father is trying, alhamdulillah, that's good. But if either party is not trying or not making that effort to be an active, practicing parent, then it leads to confusion. And you see this, that when they're both together on the same page, this is something which Rasulullah ﷺ commended. You look at that hadith, that may Allah have mercy on that woman who sprinkles water on the face of her husband to wake him up for tahajjud. And may Allah have mercy on that husband who sprinkles water on the face of his wife to wake her up for tahajjud. Why is that? It's because they're on the same page. Otherwise, we know, would you sprinkle water on your wife's face if you knew she was going to get irritated and swear at you? You wouldn't. And the women, they know that if they were going to do that to their husband and the husband was going to respond, you know I've got to work tomorrow, leave me alone. They wouldn't do that. But they would only do it because they're on the same page. And when they are on the same page, and that's where we get the dua of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that may Allah have mercy on this wife because of what she's doing. May Allah have mercy on this husband because of what he's doing. So these were two things, vision and mindset. Vision and mindset and being on the same page. The next thing, so it's still continuing actually. So Sayyidah Hajar, she raised her child, Ismail alayhi salam, in the absence of her husband Ibrahim alayhi salam, to be such that when he came back to Mecca years later, he found his child was willing to do whatever he had asked. And that brings us to our third point. So the first point was vision and mindset. The second point was being on the same page. And the third point is communication and engagement. Now, got Umar over here. Umar is a good student of ours, right? With the wife being on the same page, the children have to be on the same page. If your children are not involved in the family discussions, if there isn't effective communication between parents and children, there isn't that bonding, there's just do this, do that, then what type of a household environment is created? It's just resentment, that I just have to do things. Why? It was never explained to me why I had to do it. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he told his son that Allah has commanded me to sacrifice you, the words that are used is فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. Aapki kya raay hai? Tell me what you feel. Now imagine, the kid's 7 years old. Father is more than 90. Does he need to consult his son in the decisions that he makes? He's a Nabi. He doesn't need to. But the fact that he is involving his child, he is engaging with that child. And then, what did the child say? Ya bati if'al ma tu'mar. The tarbiyat was done right. Dad, do what you are commanded to do. You don't need to justify anything to me. You don't need to explain to me. There was a time, like not even my time, my parents' time maybe, is when the parents would give instruction to their children, the children would say, Ji Abbu, aapka hukum sara aankhon par. Now it's not that time. Well, ask why. Tell me to do something, tell me why. Why should I do it? And you get offended. Say, Badtameez, why? You don't have the right to ask me why. I'm your parent, I'm telling you to do something, you listen. That's our response. You have to understand that when there is engagement, when there is communication, then nobody will feel the need to question instructions. And this doesn't apply only for the child to the parent, it applies among the spouses themselves as well. So, when the tarbiyat is made, when there's proper preparation to ready the child to follow the commands of the deen, then the child won't have resentment. Meaning, from the time the child, my daughter Habiba is 2.5, she knows that her mother wears the burqa when she's praying namaz, so she knows she can pray you wear the burqa, and she also prays namaz. She doesn't have to. She doesn't even pray salah. She's 2.5. She's not mukhataba. She's not addressed. She's not mukallaf of having to do anything. But she knows that this is how salah is supposed to be prayed, where you pray on the musalla, the sajada, janamaz, and you pray, wearing proper clothes. When she reaches 6, 7, and we would get her into the habit of praying salah, her mind is already made. That prior effort that was required is already put in place. She knows what she's supposed to be doing. But if she was doing whatever she wanted to do and she was playing and she wasn't observing, wasn't learning by observation, there was no proper prior preparation, then as soon as the kid hits 10, come, go to the masjid, we got to pray salah. Child will not be as committed to doing ibadah. Will only do it because they've been asked to do it. But they will have resentment in their hearts. And they'll do it grudgingly. Dad's saying, and he's the one that, he's the one that puts a roof over my head. He's the one that gives me allowance, so I have to listen to him. But what do you think will happen when that kid gets a summer job or that kid gets a car? Will that kid still be actively involved in doing salah wherever he is? Right? So if we do that, if we invest in our children and we are approachable by our children, they can speak to us about things that affect them, whether it's with their friends, whether it's with their school, anything that they have, any problems that they have. Fathers for sons, mothers for daughters. When we have that relationship and those children can come to us freely and say, Dad, this is what happened at school. Mom, this is what happened with my friends. My friends are doing this. If those doors of communication are open, then we can have sensible, solid parenting conversations. If not, where are those kids going to get that guidance from? From their friends? From the internet. Do you think their friends have their best interests at heart? Do you think the internet can give them better guidance than you, their biological parent, can? Obviously not. We, as parents, will give the best guidance that we can because we know this are my flesh and blood. I will do that, provided there is proper engagement. And one of the biggest setbacks of this family engagement or conversation communication is technology. You look at this, we look at this ourselves as men, even as women. How addicted are we to our devices? And do we have times in our home or places in our home where they're considered device free? If you're having a meal, you're having dinner with your family, make a point of making it a device free meal. No devices. If you're having some family time, you sit together like 10 minutes and you talk about something exciting that happened during the day, no devices. Devices are things that have kind of really crippled our family unit. Okay? And I say this being a person who's 30, and I also use devices. And I say this, we have devices at home. All of you have devices. Illa mashallah, some parents who choose not to give their children devices, which is very commendable in this time and age, only for educational use, for example. But besides that, we have devices. We should curb the usage of our devices to have more interactive, real-life conversations. Okay? All right, so the first thing was vision and mindset. Second was being on the same page. And third is communication and engagement. Now, this is the last two things. They're not as long. The fourth point is bonding over family activities. Look at ourselves. Summer's coming up. Weekend is coming up right now. Do we get involved with our children? Do we involve our children in what we do? Whether it's dini or it's worldly. Salah is something that's an easy example. You take your kid to the masjid for salah. My daughter Habiba, she's about 2.5. Those of you who were here for Isha the other day, you saw that she came and she started reading Qur'an while I was leading Salah. Right? So she comes and she observes that, okay, the Salah is going on, so she joins the Salah. Right? All of you have children. Make it a point of bringing your children to the Salah where your children are such that they're not going to mess the place. Alhamdulillah, for the most part, if we raise our children right, they will understand on a basic level that Masjid has ihtiram. Okay? Bring your children to the Masjid. This is Canada. This isn't the Middle East or Asia or Africa where Islam is everywhere outside. Okay? Islam is not everywhere outside. So we take our children to where Islam is being presented and practiced publicly. And that's the masajid. The homes as well, but the homes to a certain extent. The masajid, when your kid comes to the masjid and sees another kid their age also in the masjid wearing, Sharia compliant clothing, your kid gets confidence. This isn't something that's exclusive to Islam. So when I was in Red Deer 3 years ago, or we had this conversation pre-COVID, where we had members from the Church of Latter-day Saints, okay, Mormons. So they put in a request to come to the masjid in Red Deer, bring their children over, and just have their children meet our children so that their children wouldn't feel like they're the only ones who have traditional family values. Okay. So these are non-Muslims that want to just look at Muslim kids and say, okay, we're not the only ones that are practicing this, conservative, traditional mindset. But so let's come back to Edmonton. Over here, when we do it in this masjid, you will find that kids will feel more confident. So we look at Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he came back from where he was, he came back to Makkah. He went by the well of Zamzam and he saw his son Ismail sharpening an arrow. So he saw him, and the father saw the son saw the father, recognized him, I don't know how, because he was 7 years old and he was a few months, but eventually they recognized, so he got up. He said, so he hugged him. The father hugged the son. And then the father asked the son that, hey, Allah has commanded me to do something. Do you want to help out? Literally, وَتُعِينُنِي i'anat, do you want to help me? So Ismail alayhi salam, son, loves his father, wants to be involved with his father in his day-to-day tasks. Like I give you an example of my daughter again and again. Habiba, she sees her mother washing dishes, she wants to wash dishes. She sees her mother carrying laundry, she wants to help with that. They want to get involved. Right? This is how they bond with their parents. Either you can engage them in recreation or leisure, or even domestic chores. Your kids will want to feel involved because that's how they see that you care about them and you are showing them affection. So he said, yes, u'inuk, I want to help you. So father and son, that's how they built the Kaaba. That Ismail went and he got these stones and he gave it to him, and then Ibrahim was on the maqam, and then the stone rose and he constructed the Kaaba. It was a bonding exercise. Okay, they both did it, and while they were doing it, both of them together are saying, "Rabbana taqabbal minna." Allah, we're trying to do this humble effort. Accept it from us. Right? What does Ibrahim alayhi salam's actions teach his son Ismail? We do things properly, efficiently, professionally. We do things, we ask Allah continuously for acceptance. This is a way to teach your children. One is you teach your children telling them do something. One is you do it yourself and they observe you doing it. And this is also kind of sidetracking. This is also how Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma, how they taught that old person who came to them. So they observed an old person who was doing wudu, elderly person who was doing wudu wrong. They could have told him, you're doing this wrong. We're the grandsons of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're the Nawasas. We know how to do it right. We'll show you. They said, uncle, can you correct our wudu? We want to do wudu and we want you to observe us. And if we're making any mistakes, can you correct us? Who? Al-Hassan and Hussein. They did it. And they showed this elderly person what was the correct way to do wudu by physically doing it. So this is something you engage in activities with your children. Whether it's dini or it's dunyawi, engagement with your children, bonding over family activities is something that is missing. And we need to bring that back. This summer, make your summer count. Make your summer memorable, that your summer is such that that child, 5 years down the road, the child remembers, Abu, aapne mujhe ye sikhaya tha. Remember 2023 summer, you taught me this is how to make a fire, this is how to do this. Anything. These things go a long way, and we really, as parents, we don't understand, but as a son of my father, I understand and I remember all the times my father did things with me, and I have appreciation for that. And the last point. So the first thing was vision and mindset. Second thing, being on the same page. Third thing, communication and engagement. And fourth thing, bonding over family activities. The last thing is dua. Ibrahim alayhi salam did whatever he was supposed to do. He ticked all the boxes in Parenting 101. After that, he knew that my actions, all of my actions and all of my mehnat and work is nothing without acceptance from Allah. So then he made that dua that Rabbi ja'al hadha al-balada amina wajnubni wa bani an na'bud al-asnam. Protect me and my children from worshipping idols. ربنا وجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك. Make us obedient to you and make our descendants obedient to you. Besides all the other du'as that he made, his vision and mindset was, I'm going to do all the effort and then I will ask Allah. I have family members, we have family members, we know of people who they did everything right. The children still ended up going off the path. After that, you can't blame the child, you can't blame the parent, because the parent did everything that was required of him. Hidayat is not in the hands of the parent, but effort is what's in the hand of the parent. The last thing that I will leave all of you with is an easy recipe for barakah in your homes. The hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anh, when you enter your home, say salam. You say salam. Whenever you enter your home, say salam. My daughter, Habiba, I was leaving to come over here. Habiba, I'm leaving now. Assalamu alaikum. 2.5. She knows that. When you leave the house, you say assalamu alaikum. When you enter the house, you say assalamu alaikum. She knows that. All of you can do this. It's like the easiest way to get barakah in your homes. We all want barakah. Especially now with looking at the economy and everything else. We want barakah in our homes. We want barakah in our assets, in our rizq. The easiest way to get barakah in your time, your rizq, everything is get into the habit of saying salam when you enter your home. You will have barakah in your home. With that, we'll end. May Allah protect me and my family and all of you and your families and make your homes ideal.